Welcome back, everyone, to Profluent Sports. I always love having the capital side, and especially from the Asia India market. Learning more about that space, I see it as a huge opportunity. So we got Geetansh Sahni today, investor at Yashaa Global Capital, which is and I'll let him explain all of this, but it's the one of the first Asian sport-backed funds by Shakar Damwan, which I probably butchered that, even though he went over the pronunciations before. But a huge cricket player. Similar to what a Kevin Durant has done with Boardroom, or what LeBron James has done with building investment team around them. So same for a cricket player. So, Ganesh, great to have you here, my man, and look forward to diving in today.
Likewise, Andrew. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast today. And I think you've done a pretty good job with the name. Like I told you, Shikhar has been referred to as Shikhar Dhawan. That's an anglicized way of pronouncing his surname. And that is where we actually found our roots. Our fund was initially called Dhawan Global Ventures, which had a great meaning and a deeper meaning attached to it. And yeah, we've grown into being called Yashaa Global Capital over the journey of 2 years now. We've um,
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I guess you gave a little background. Tell us a little bit more about who you are, how you came into this opportunity, and then ultimately how it all came together as this emerging fund, backed by a major cricket player and his big following and social clout.
Sure. So, I mean, way back in college, I studied economics, and I already had, a huge affinity for business. I wanted to be in a space where I'm working with different businesses, modern style of businesses, and different business models. I realized investing in them is a pretty good way to start. So, my first stint was at an angel fund in India. It was a sector agnostic fund. We were investing early stage across multiple sectors. Primarily, the geography was India. And then through a friend, I got to know that this exciting new opportunity is coming up. And back then, the fund was at in the idea stage. So I can call myself the first hire. And back then, I got connected to the partners. I realized, it's a team of like-minded individuals who were planning on building something which, we've never seen before in India, at least backed by an Indian athlete. And being lover of sports since my childhood, I thought it was a natural fit. Investing in sports at such an exciting time. We've all in India, we've grown up, watching cricket. We've grown up watching the IPL, and we saw, the influence of media on the game. And I thought it was a pretty good time to get involved. And yeah, that's how we started the journey
Very
at
cool.
Yashaa.
Very cool. So give us a little more like on the thesis, what you guys are looking to invest in, and where you sort of live and stage wise, and the typical investor jargon that people want to know.
Sure. So I'll start with the fund size. We are a $50 million fund. We have a green shoe option of another $25 million. So I could say the target raise was $75 million. The fund has a sectoral thesis of investing in and around the wide spectrum of sports and gaming. So anything that touches the ecosystem of sports, be it regular business of sports, new sports tech, trends that are coming up, fan engagement, wearable technology, things of that sort, free to play games, fantasy games. So all of that falls, in our sector, along with anything that helps improve athlete performance, including nutrition, better analysis, better training, and I think one of the most exciting subsectors would be media. So sports media is also of great interest to us. We see that the value of sports increases multifold the moment it enters your living room, from the court or the ground. So I think that is a wide space where we see a lot of value creation possibility.
Very cool. And you guys are more on the early stage, if you can
Yes.
convert it to USD as well. Sort of check size as you look to do, where you look to come in stage wise, that would be helpful.
Yes, so we are an early stage fund. We are looking to invest in companies that have some sort of revenue or some sort of traction coming in, ideally. But for exceptional products, we're also looking at products from various different stages. We could say that our minimum check sizes range from, let's say, $500,000 to up to, in some cases, $5 million. But the sweet spot would be somewhere around 2.5 up to $3 million is what we're looking to come in with. And these are mostly early stage opportunities where we actually see a lot of value add possibility as investors in the sports tech space. We understand that it's a closely knitted sector, where portfolio companies can benefit a lot from the evolved insights we and our backers have. That's the idea, to be a specialized fund where we can help our portfolio companies not with just capital, but a lot more than that. It's the sector expertise, it's the right connections, knowing the industry leaders, getting enabling them to do better business essentially.
Really cool. And have you guys done any investments so far, or where are you guys at in the deployment cycle as well?
Sure. So right now we're at the stage we've the regulation bit we were just clearing that bit up. It's a long process. So we're happy to tell you that in the next 2 months we'll probably hear about our first deployment. But we've been pretty active in the deal evaluating journey. We've actually warehoused a couple of deals that you'll hear about the moment we announce our first close,
Yeah,
and we'll start deploying.
very
So actively evaluating deals right now.
love that. Can you just explain to everybody what warehousing a deal is? Because I'm sure we have a lot of founders or people that aren't familiar with that term.
Sure. So essentially, when we've spoken to founder, we've evaluated them, we've gone through with the due diligence process, and we've come to an investment decision. And the decision is to invest. Is when we say that we've warehoused a deal. The investment actually takes place at a later point in time. Could be because of many reasons. In our case, it's the fund licensing has taken a bit of time. Essentially, why you know. The investment will take place at a later point in time.
Very cool. I appreciate you explaining that. Now, are you guys looking mainly in the Middle East? You looking mainly in Asia or India or global, or what's sort of the geography that's getting you guys excited?
So we're a global fund. We're looking at opportunities all across the world, but we do have a focus on the Middle East and the Asian markets. We see that the Middle East, is a very passionate spender on sports, and they're statement investors. They're heavily investing into the ecosystem, and when we see that much of an activity happening in an ecosystem, we realize that it's a good time to be looking at deals that have an access to the Middle East markets or have some play over there. So I would say a significant part of our investment strategy is going to be focused on the Indian markets, the Middle East markets, while also looking at deals from all across the world.
Yeah, and I'm curious as from a cricket lens or even sport, are there certain sports, obviously, with Shakar, like, does that make that more enticing as well because you have such a big influence in that? Or, are there any that you're more drawn to as well from just like a sport specific standpoint?
Naturally, I would say we have a natural inclination towards cricket, and we have a greater understanding of the game. We've seen global trends being very similar to each other across sports, across various different sports, and the idea is to replicate the best practices, the best learnings from the various ecosystems all over the world. Like we see padel and pickleball, really growing in India massively, even in not just tier one cities. I'm talking about tier two, tier three cities that have about 50 to 100 courts and are building at a rapid pace. But at the same time, we differentiate between sports being, casual sports as well as spectator sports. And I think that's where the expertise and the sector knowledge will step in. And we see media to have a big influence over there, storytelling and narrative building. That's the same, even, if you look at the IPL, you would see how the broadcasters hype up the game. They build smaller narratives for each and every game, and that attracts more and more eyeballs. And I'm sure that that's the same trend that you see across NFL, NBA, and even Premier League games. That's how we get more and more eyeballs. So I think it's about picking the right trends from various different voting ecosystems all over the world and implementing them in the right market.
Yeah, when you guys look at your team, like, do you have a person that sits over gaming? Do you have a person that sits over like more media and then sports? Or how did you guys, internally develop your team?
Sure. So, I would say we're a rather small team right now. We're also in the team building stage. We do have a couple of people, who've been operators, builders, and investors eventually in the game ecosystem, and they understand gaming exceptionally well. So the deal passes through a different journey. Comes so the first opinion is probably taken by somebody who understands the sector very well, and then after gaining more sectoral knowledge in that specific sector, is when the larger team also contributes and shares their input.
Very cool. And as you're looking, you talked a little bit about the deals you're looking for on the early stage side. You're writing these 500 to $5 million USD checks. You're global, focus obviously a little more Asia, Middle East. Talk to me a little bit more about the founders and what excites you from that lens, or the team, the management team or the co-founding team. What do you guys look for on that side of the equation?
Right. So, when I talk about it from, the startup as a company perspective, we invest where passion meets potential. If the idea of the product moves people, we're paying attention. That's basically it. But at the same time, there are a couple of key differentiators when you talk to multiple founders. It could start from your first interaction when they join in on a call. uh, we usually we're able to identify when it's a group of two or three people on the first call, who is the CEO, who is the operator, and who's playing the technical role, even without introducing themselves. That is when how they present themselves. So I think from the first call itself, we try to note these things down and keep that in mind and try to make a clearer picture of what the team looks like, how the team within itself, how well they're bonding. I think those are very key differentiators for us as well, because when you're growing from 1 to 10, I think these are very key factors for us to look at. And I think, yeah, that's basically it if we talk about the team.
Yeah, yeah, super cool. Now, from a we talked about deals, we talked about the founding team, a little bit of your thesis, a little bit of excuse me, your internal team. What's exciting you from a macro lens, right? As you're looking to where sports is going, obviously you guys see some bigger things, or you're paying attention to some stuff that obviously got you interested in the space to go deploy capital and help build things. What are some of those things? Like you brought up a pickleball and all these courts in Asia. What else is going into, like, hey, there's these macro things going on, and we're going to go capture that opportunity.
So we see sports as one of the biggest unifiers in the world right now. To get a couple of million people hooked onto a TV screen or a mobile device at one point of time. I think that sort of a power only sport possesses in today's time. And to answer your question about the macro trends, I think media has played a huge role with the onset of cheaper internet and mobile penetration. When you see there are 600 million mobile users in India. Across the world, internet is getting cheaper by the day. We see that playing a huge role in how people consume the game, and also spills over to our next sector, which is gaming. That's the sort of entertainment that people are looking at these days. We see a huge role of technology in be it sports or gaming, and I think that is how we can imagine sports achieving scale in VC timelines, being able to give us a return within our fund cycle, because that becomes an essential piece of the puzzle, right? We cannot be sitting on investments for longer cycles than that. So I think scalability plays a huge role. While also we understand that sports as an ecosystem, how a portfolio should ideally reflect that is we would not be eyeing the typical 85% or 90% failure rate and 10% success rate. We see that there are smaller wins that could be achieved within the ecosystem, and that could probably improve our portfolio success rate. The multiples might be lesser. So while retaining the roots of being a tech investor, there are some nuances that are different in sports investing, and due to our evolved insights, we're able to catch on to those, and that should hopefully reflect in the portfolio.
Yeah, no, I like it. It's an interesting strategy from an area of opportunity standpoint. I know you've mentioned some things throughout this podcast, but any that if there's founders listening or they're looking to build something, any that sort of are just a little bit more of interest. Like for me, I'd say like youth sports are just a little bit more of interest to me right now than some of the other areas, or adult rec sports, right? Like, are there any right now where you're like, like we're watching this space a little bit closer?
I would have talked about youth sports myself, because the problem of TAM gets solved pretty easily when you're servicing professional sports. I believe you have a certain number of customers that you can cater to. You have a certain number of I mean, the ticket sizes are huge. The contract values might be very big, but then the TAM is also limited. But when you target youth sports, I think distribution plays a key role. And if a founder is able to think of having a technology that can be used by pro athletes, but the product can still be used by a larger chunk of sports fans or athletes. I think that is a very exciting space to be in. So operators that have had experience in distribution, scaling companies, I think that's a huge plus for people building in the sports ecosystem, especially.
Amazing. Can you give us the quick rundown on like what youth sports looks like and from like a cricket lens or an India lens? Because it's obviously much different, you know, in that area of the world than it is in the US.
Right. So, when we come down to India, I think the economics work slightly different. The consumer behavior is also pretty different. So, to get people, to get, youth athletes to actually pay for the products is, I would say, a slightly bigger challenge in the beginning. But if the product is able to counter that and actually cross that hurdle, then I think it's a huge market because the athletes are very passionate at the younger level, and it's just a harder sell, I would say. But once somebody is able to cross that hurdle, it's a pretty huge market,
Interesting.
especially in it's
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, as we round out here, this has been awesome. You know, where can people find you? Where can people reach out? What's like websites or socials? What's the best way to get in contact?
sure. So our website is Yasha. It's YASHA.vc. You could probably write to us on our website. Also, you can reach out to me via email. It's Geetansh at yasha.vc. Uh, our turnaround times are slightly longer these days since with a lot of PR going along, and we've had you know immensely huge response. I think about a week's time we should be able to get back.
Amazing. I love it. Well, super cool. And, you know, look forward to staying in touch and seeing what cool things you guys got going on across the world.
For sure. And Andrew, I would like to, congratulate you, especially
Thank
for I remember when we connected a couple of months back on LinkedIn. I remember congratulating you on building such a wonderful platform for people to talk about such a huge space, but it's still hidden under the wraps, and people probably are not understanding at this point in time the power of sports, and especially the power of capital in sports. And I think it's a pretty cool thing to do.
I appreciate that. And it's exciting, man, what you guys got going, what we're doing at Profluence. And it's a fun time to be building in sports, that's for sure.
Absolutely.